Do we foresee any friction with Guatemala now that we're reclaiming our full 12 miles of seas?
That's a good question. I think, again, that's why the legal team wanted the amendment to the long title. I thought it was already clear that all we are doing is saying that what had been passed in order to act as an aid to negotiations was now being, in fact, repealed, and so that we would go back to the position under international law.
And that position under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, as it is known otherwise, entitles Belize to 12 nautical miles of territorial waters. In 1992, that distance was shortened via the passage of the Maritime Areas Act, so as to allow Guatemala access to the high seas. This was done under the leadership of Prime Minister George Price as a show of good faith during negotiations between Belize and Guatemala in an effort to resolve the territorial dispute. 27 years later, the legal clauses stating the conditions of the Maritime Areas Act are being undone in a historic show of bipartisanship.
I rise to introduce a bill for an act to amend the Maritime Areas Act, Chapter 11 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, revised edition 2011, by repealing the provisions of it that had the declared purpose of providing a framework to seek a negotiated definitive agreement on territorial differences with the Republic of Guatemala, and leaving in force the provisions of it that define the maritime areas of Belize on the basis of international law.
The long title to which PM Barrow refers encompasses what was initially considered to be a clear definition of the maritime areas of Belize. However, on the advice of Government's Council, specific changes were made to the proposed amendment for further clarity.
The change, to me, is a distinction without a difference, but our team of international lawyers advised that, in their view, it would be best to do this for the sake of absolute clarity and to make sure that no one would think we are doing anything other than going back to the international law position and doing no more than taking out what had been put in the Maritime Areas Act for the express purpose of trying to aid the negotiations with Guatemala.
On the other side of the floor, opposition leader John Briceño, whose charge it was, having listened to the membership of the People's United Party to lead a no vote in the May 8th ICJ referendum, has also embraced the spirit of bipartisanship in the interest of Belize.
Point 4B of the People's Declaration stated that the Maritime Areas Act be amended to claim for Belize the full extent of rights under international law. We on this side believe that the proposed amendments before us today fulfills point 4B of the People's Declaration. We are satisfied that these amendments are drafted as such that is in line with similar maritime legislation of other countries in our region like Jamaica and St. Lucia. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is but one step in the process that will lead us to the ICJ, and we start in this spirit of bipartisanship because we want the world to know that when it comes to our sovereignty and full territorial integrity, we will not be divided and we will be one nation.
With the Governor General's assent, following a special sitting of the Senate to ratify the amended law, a formal notice will be sent to the International Court of Justice to commence the legal process, an expectedly lengthy undertaking.
We can now send the notification, or as soon as the Governor General signs it into law, we can send the notification and we're off. I want to repeat what I said, that already the legal team is looking at the preparation of the brief for the application for the Sarstoon provisional measures. I would dearly hope that it wouldn't become necessary. But again, I wouldn't hold my breath there either. So we are proceeding on the basis that we will have to make the application, and the lawyers are hard at work. But in effect, once this is signed by the GG, it means we're off to the races.
To my initial question, PM Barrow admits that while he does not have an answer, a great deal of what results from the repeal of the Maritime Areas Act will depend on the Guatemalans whose access to the high seas will now be limited.
It's a fair question, and I can't know the answer. A lot will depend on the Guatemalans, but from our point of view, the intention is not to cause difficulties for the Guatemalans. It is just to preserve our position so that when the judges give their decision, there can be no prejudice in consequence of the fact that we had not, in fact, gone back and extended to the full extent allowable to us under international law. So that's the objective. It's not to cause the Guatemalans any trouble.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.